Imagine finally gaining freedom, and realizing freedom doesn't heal what slavery built. Imagine no longer being owned, but still hearing orders in your head. Imagine being praised as brave, loyal, and good, while never learning how to live for yourself. This is the tragedy of Dobby. He isn't weak, he isn't foolish, he isn't comic relief, he is something far more painful, a soul who escaped chains without ever escaping the damage they left behind. In the wizarding world, Dobby is remembered as a symbol of freedom, but freedom for someone like him comes with a cost no one talks about. Dobby does not begin life as an individual, he begins it as property. Before he understands choice, he understands commands. Before he understands identity, he understands ownership. House elves are not taught who they are taught who they belong to. Their worth is measured by obedience, not existence. For Dobby, saying no is not an option, it is a threat. Hesitation is dangerous. Questioning is painful, silence is survival. From the start, obedience becomes instinct, not because he agrees, but because pain enforces it. When survival depends on compliance, rebellion feels suicidal. Dobby learns early that being useful is the same as being alive, and when usefulness becomes identity, there is no room left for selfhood. Pain is not just punishment for Dobby, it is instruction, it is correction, it is communication. Pain tells him when he has thought incorrectly. Pain reminds him where his limits are. Over time, no master needs to intervene. Dobby punishes himself automatically. The authority has been internalized. Fear no longer needs supervision. This is the most efficient form of control. When discipline lives inside the mind, escape becomes impossible. Pain stops being an event and becomes a reflex. It speaks faster than reason, and Dobby listens every time. Dobby is not incapable of moral judgment. He recognizes danger. He recognizes injustice. He understands when harm is coming, but wanting to do good is forbidden. Action without permission is treated as betrayal. So Dobby turns the punishment inward. He hurts himself to stop himself from helping. He injures his body to quiet his conscience. This is not stupidity. It is conditioning. Good intentions feel criminal to him. Helping feels disobedient. Morality becomes something that must be punished. For Dobby, goodness only feels legitimate if it hurts, and that belief will never fully leave him. When Dobby is freed, the moment is celebrated. A sock becomes a symbol. Chains are removed. The world moves on, but freedom is not instant healing. The body is free long before the mind is. Dobby still waits for orders, still fears consequences that no longer exist, still apologizes for existing. Conditioning does not vanish with ownership. Trauma does not dissolve with paperwork. Freedom feels unstable. It feels loud and unsafe, because chaos is scarier than oppression when oppression is familiar. Dobby is free, but not yet whole. Freedom introduces something new, choice. And choice terrifies Dobby. Decisions feel dangerous. Preferences feel selfish. Wanting feels wrong. Every option feels like a test he will fail. He was never taught how to choose, only how to comply. Responsibility feels like a trap. Mistakes feel unforgivable. Freedom demands self-trust. Dobby does not have that yet, so he hesitates constantly. Not because he is foolish, but because choosing once meant pain. Dobby insists on being paid less, not because he must, but because he believes he deserves less. Worth to him is inseparable from suffering. If work does not hurt, it feels undeserved. If he is not sacrificing, he feels guilty. Freedom removed ownership, not belief. The internal hierarchy still exists. Pain still feels like proof of value. Rest feels suspicious. Fairness feels excessive. Equality feels uncomfortable. Dobby equates discomfort with virtue, and that belief keeps him small, even when no one asks him to be. Dobby chooses Harry, but the choice is complicated. It is not ownership, but it is devotion. Service feels familiar. Loyalty feels safe. Independence feels empty. Harry does not command Dobby, but Dobby still orbits him, because structure feels comforting, because purpose feels earned. Being alone was never taught as healthy. Freedom did not teach him how to exist without attachment, so he redirects loyalty instead of releasing it, not because he must, but because he does not know another way. Harry treats Dobby with respect, no cruelty, no punishment, no ownership, and Dobby treats this as extraordinary, not because it is rare, but because abuse normalized deprivation. When kindness feels miraculous, something is deeply wrong. Respect should be baseline. For Dobby, it feels like a gift. He thanks people for not hurting him. He apologizes for taking space. He treats decency as generosity. That reveals how low the standard was, and how deeply it shaped him. Dobby is often played for laughs. His speech is exaggerated. His behavior is cartoonish. His pain is softened with comedy. Humor becomes armor. It makes suffering digestible. It makes discomfort acceptable. People laugh instead of intervene. Comedy distances responsibility. Dobby learns that pain is tolerated if it entertains, so he exaggerates himself, minimizes his trauma, turns harm into spectacle. This keeps others comfortable and keeps him unseen. Dobby is brave, not in spite of trauma, but because of it. Pain taught him endurance. Fear taught him compliance. Obedience taught him sacrifice. When he finally acts freely, he knows the cost, and he pays it anyway. Courage does not feel heroic to him. It feels inevitable. It feels like the last option. Defiance is not rebellion. It is survival. He does not expect reward. He does not expect safety. He expects pain and proceeds regardless. Even free, Dobby serves. He helps, he assists, he sacrifices. Service is not demanded, it is instinctive. Rest feels wrong. Self-preservation feels selfish. He never asks who will protect him. He never asks who will care for him. He gives until empty, because emptiness feels familiar, because usefulness feels like existence. Freedom changed the rules, but not the reflexes. Dobby still lives outward, never inward. Dobby never asks for more, not safety, not comfort, not longevity. He never demands protection, never negotiates boundaries, never claims space. Selfishness was framed as evil, sacrifice was framed as virtue, so he gives endlessly, even when it costs him everything, even when it shortens his life. He does not measure value by survival, he measures it by service, and that is devastating. When Dobby dies, he does not rage. He does not protest. He does not ask why. He dies calmly, satisfied, because he believes he succeeded. He helped. He protected. He served. By his internal metric, his life was complete. That is what hurts most. Not that he died, but that he believed this was enough. Not happiness, not healing, just usefulness. Because freedom arrived too late, because guidance never came, because dignity was discovered after damage. Dobby was free, but unprepared. He was autonomous, but unhealed. He was praised, but unsupported. Choice came without tools. Respect came without repair. Freedom became another test, one he was never trained to pass. Being free required skills he never learned, and the cost of learning was his life. That is not liberation, that is survival with better optics, and it hurts just as much. Dobby was brave, Dobby was loyal, Dobby was good, but he was never taught to live for himself, never taught to want more, never taught to stop. He died believing usefulness equaled worth, that serving others was enough, that self-erasure was virtue, and that belief killed him, not violently, but completely. Dobby was free, but freedom came too late to save him, and that is the real tragedy.